Hi, my name is Maria Grijalva and I'm a registered dietitian at Brookside Community Health Center. Today we're going to talk about nutrition and some general principles and tips for healthy eating. Following a good nutrition combined with physical activity is extremely important to maintain a healthy lifestyle. It's not only important to maintain a healthy weight, but also to reduce the risk of chronic diseases such as diabetes and heart disease. Um, Healthy eating is all about balance. Therefore, it is very important that we talk about the three main food groups, also known as macronutrients. These macronutrients are classified as carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. They are needed for the body so they can provide energy. So let's talk about our first group, carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are the main source of energy, and they include things like grains, so everything that is rice, bread, pasta, beans or legumes, and cereal, including oatmeal. We also have things like dairy, such as milk and yogurt. In the carbohydrate list, we also find the starchy vegetables. So these are vegetables such as the potatoes or the plantain and the corn. We also have non-starchy vegetables, which you can usually eat a little bit more of. And these include things like broccoli, pepper, cucumbers, tomatoes, and leafy greens such as lettuce and spinach. And then you also have all fruits. So all fruits and all fruit juices they count as a carbohydrate. So things like apple or orange or strawberries, even the whole, like any type of fruit juice will be a carbohydrate. And then we have things as sweet and desserts, which is usually what everyone knows as a carbohydrate. So these are things like cakes, cookies, sugar, and honey. So when choosing any of these carbohydrates, it's important for you to choose the ones that will give you more nutrients and the ones that will be less processed. So this type of carbohydrates, like try to choose less of the white bread, the refined grains. Try to choose a little bit less of the fruit juice, and try to go more for the whole grains, for wheat bread, for whole fruits, for vegetables, and for especially the non-starchy vegetables such as broccoli, or tomatoes or peppers. As a general rule, it is important to include no more than a quarter of your plate of carbohydrates. So usually a quarter of the plate for most people will equal to about a cup. So a cup of your grains will be into your plate. So if you're choosing things like rice and beans or beans and corn or pasta and corn, try that these two options do not go over to more than 1 cup, which will be usually like a quarter of your plate right there. On the other side, it is important to include at least half of your plate of vegetables, especially the non-starchy ones. So the ones that we talked about before, like broccoli or tomatoes or carrots. So if we're getting our plate, will fill at least half of your plate of vegetables. So your plate will be looking something like this. So according to the Dietary Guidelines for Americans 2015-2020, it is important to include at least 2.5 cups of vegetables per day. When we're talking about fruits, it is important to include at least 2 portions of fruit per day. So when we're talking about a portion of fruit, we're talking about a small to medium apple or a small to medium orange or half a banana. Usually a portion of fruit will also be equal to a cup. So all those type of fruits that you slice, the pineapple or watermelon, usually will be equal to a cup. Now let's talk about our second group. So our second group are proteins. So in proteins, you find things like meat, fish, seafood, nuts and legumes, and pretty much any type of soy products such as tofu. When we are talking about protein, a general rule is to include at least a quarter of your plate of protein, which is equal to 3 ounces. So what is 3 ounces? In order to make it easy for you, usually the size of the palm of your hand. So when you're looking at protein, try to at least choose a protein that will fill at least half of the size of the palm of your hand. So if we take this chicken is the size of the palm of my hand. And this will equal kind of to a quarter of the plate. So we have our plate here, and this is kind of what we want it to look like. So we have a quarter of the plate filled with protein, a quarter of the plate filled with grains, and half the plate filled with vegetables. If you have a condition such as diabetes and or are trying to lose some weight or body fat, it is important to include 1 to 2 palm sizes of protein per meal. And last but not least, we're going to talk about our third macronutrient, which is fats. So fats are divided in 3 groups. They are the unsaturated fat, which are also the healthy fats. You also have the bad fats, which are also known as the trans fats, and we have the saturated fats, which you should consume in moderate amounts. So the healthy fats are things like vegetable oil, so canola oil or olive oil, nuts and seeds, and things like fish. This is the type of fat that you want to include more in your healthy eating. The type of bad fats, these are the ones that are fried foods, processed foods, things like pizza or donuts or cakes. All of these are the bad fats, and they are also known as trans fats. So just remember that the T of trans fats stands for trouble. And then we have the saturated fats, which you should be consuming in kind of a moderate amount. For this, an easy way to remember is saturated fats. The S of saturated stands for solid. So these are fats that are solid at room temperature, and you can find things like in red meat, in whole milk, in butter, and things like that. But how much fat should we be eating? According to the Dietary Guidelines for Americans 2015-2020, you should be eating no more than 5 teaspoons of fat per day. So that usually a teaspoon is the size of the thumb, of your thumb. So I would actually say try to eat 1 to 2 thumb sizes of fat per meal. And the last tip of healthy eating for now will be to eat your calories, don't drink them. Try to avoid drinking sugary beverages such as fruit juice or soda, and try to go for water instead. When it comes to drinks, the best drink is always water. So try to at least have 8 cups of water per day. And a good way to have those is to have a glass of water before and during each meal. Again, this was Maria Grijalva, registered dietitian at Brookside Community Health Center. Thank you for listening, and I hope these tips help you to follow a healthy eating.